Alright, we're going to look a little bit further into GameMaker and look at some of the drag and drop code and how it works. What I've done is I've set up this little simple game here. I'll run it out so you can see it with a little character running around a ship. We've got a few things going on here. One, we've got motion for the character with the arrow keys. We also have the scrolling background, and we have a stable platform that the character's running on. The other thing we have are these walls that he bounces off of. If he goes to the edge, he stops and doesn't go any further until he backs up and turns around. So let's take a look at some of this code. I'm going to open up the object player 1, which is the player that was walking around. And what we have here is we have the create, which is when this player is created, this block of code is being run. And what's in this code is several variables. So we have image speed, so we set his the speed to 0, which means that when he is standing still, when we first play it, notice his arms aren't moving. When we push our button forward, you can see his little arms going back and forth. That's the image speed we're talking about. We're not talking about forward and backwards, up and down speed. We're talking about these actual arms swinging. So we have image index, which we'll get to in a little while. Some of the stuff, like for instance the variable boat stop, this is a variable that I created for the boat movement, and I set that to false. These are global variables which are not being used in the game right now because I've pulled them out, but these are inventory, so the guy walks around and picks up inventory, and then it sets it in this counter that you see up there called inventory right there, but we're not going to look at that in this tutorial. So the next thing we have is a step, and this is actually executed each frame. So this is not necessarily the step of the character, but it's each frame, and we'll look at, open that up. So what we have here is I've got a label here which is commented out, and I just call this control so you could see the actual movement of the character. I've set his friction to 0.7, and I'm going to change this so you can see what that does. So we'll change that to 1. And as I move him, notice that I let go of the button and he just slides to a stop. With this friction 7 set, when I let go of my arrow, he actually stops dead in his tracks, or almost dead in his tracks. Now if he was walking on ice or something like that, I might set that friction down to like that 0.1, so it looks like he's kind of sliding a little bit. Again, the image speed, that's his arms movement, the arms movement of the character. If the arrow is pressed up and it does a keyboard check, so basically it's checking to see what's going on with the keyboard. So the keyboard check, if it's up, I set his speed to 3 and I set the image speed to 6. Now the speed is how fast he's actually walking forward. The image speed is how fast his arms are moving back and forth as he's walking. I do the exact same thing for each of the other keys, the down, the left, the right, but I've changed each of them so that he moves correctly. For instance, the speed went from 3 here when I'm going up to -3 when I'm going down, so that he actually moves down the screen. Same thing for the left and right. It adds 5 to the direction, so that's what that plus equals is. And the image speed, again, 6 is arms moving. The direction here with the right, I subtract 5 from the direction. Now the next thing down, the wood rail, this is where he actually stops his movement. So what I've done is, under the stop moving in a direction, or excuse me, start moving in a direction, I've set the speed to equal 0 with that middle one pushed down, so there is no direction there, and I've set that to relative. That's what creates that stop movement when he's walking along and he hits the rail of the ship, and he stops when I have my down arrow key selected.